Ladies and gentlemen, friends of all shapes and sizes, the NFL is officially back. This is not a drill. This is not a bad dream. The NFL is on your screen tonight. And I know it's the preseason. I know that doesn't get some people amped up, but it gets me amped up because I am fiending. I am a football sicko. Any excuse I can get to watch the NFL on my screen, I'm gonna take, right? And so I am pumped, and as a result, I figured it was time to talk about which teams I think are contenders, which ones I think are pretenders, and which ones I think fall somewhere in between. So we're going to go through all 32 NFL teams in this video. Just as a heads up, some will get more attention than others because some I feel are pretty self-explanatory, others I have more thoughts on. This is in no order. We've got everyone lined up here at the bottom just based on how this tier list website had me set up. You can see our 6 tiers. I'm not going to waste any more of your time here. Let's go ahead and dive into this with maybe the best team in the entire National Football League in the LA Rams. And probably to no one's surprise, they are true contenders in my opinion. As I said, I think they are probably the best built roster in the league. You have the most valuable player from last year, Matthew Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You just traded for Myles Garrett, who is one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the league. In fact, I would say the conversation is not, is he the best defender? It's, is he the best player, right? We know how incredible he is. You add Garrett to a defense that was already towards the top of the league in DVOA last year. He's a monster. They've got some monsters on their defense. They might bring back Aaron Donald out of retirement. They're well coached. Their offense is good. We know they're going to be good, so they are easily going in this true contender tier. Which takes us to the Cleveland Browns, who sit at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This is a team that I really don't think is going to do much of anything this year, and that's okay. Because the Browns are not expecting to compete this year. They're not expecting to do a whole lot of anything. They are expecting to find out what they have in some of their young pieces, maybe find out if they have a worthwhile quarterback on the roster, and then go from there. There's a reason they traded Myles Garrett during the offseason. They are not equipped to handle any sort of run, and that's okay. Sometimes you need a year to step back, retool, figure out what you have in your young guys, and I know that has kind of been every season for Cleveland over the past X amount of years, but this year it's readily apparent that that's what they're going for. And I want to make it clear, I'm not some Shedeur Sanders hater. I don't think Sanders is like the worst quarterback ever. He played really bad last year, but I do think he can get better, and hopefully this year will prove that. I'm a little worried considering they're kind of going back and forth about whether it's him or Watson as the starter. That does not bode well for Sanders' development, in my opinion. If he can't even beat out Watson in the preseason, then that's rough. But as a whole, Cleveland's not going to be competing. I don't think that is a hot take. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that one too much. And very fittingly, that takes us to the Atlanta Falcons, who hired Cleveland's old head coach in Kevin Stefanski. And despite really liking that hire and being super high on the Falcons coming out of last year, I gotta put them in the mid-tier. And this one sucks for me because I was super excited to come out of this offseason and be really irresponsibly high on Atlanta, right? I love Bijan Robinson, I love Kyle Pitts and Drake London, their offensive line's great. At quarterback, they might not have a superstar, but I do think Tua can execute what Kevin Stefanski wants, and that's a lot of simple half-field reads, working off of play action, relying on the run to open up the pass. That's the kind of stuff that Tua can handle, right? The problem I have right now is with their defense. You lose Jalen Walker for the year, which is a massive blow. You are heavily relying on this pass rush, and without Jalen Walker and potentially without James Pierce Jr. for the entire season too, because he is just a horrible person, having both of those guys out with no real threat on the interior, mediocre linebackers, and a secondary that can be good but needs a little bit of help is really concerning for me. And I understand Jeff Ulbrich will coach these guys up, and I like him a lot as their defensive coordinator. I just don't think this is going to be a great year for their defense. And honestly, best case scenario for Atlanta this year, because again, I don't think they're going to go very far, might be them losing games that they should win and getting a top pick. Because you put a young quarterback, whether it be Dante Moore, Arch Manning, whoever, into this offense with Kevin Stefanski, with this line, with these weapons around him, you'd be cooking with gas, right? And then you get Jalen Walker back next year, and defense looks better. You can bolster that a little bit. They could be in a great spot with that. Realistically, they'll probably be closer to almost winning the division because the NFC South is incredibly weak. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is really tough. I am really sad that I can't put the Falcons higher right now. But one team I can project to be a lot better is the Los Angeles Chargers, who I'm going to put in this playoff tier. They had one of my favorite off seasons of any team. They just have one key weakness, and that's really what this playoffs tier is going to be, if not borderline playoffs. And that's teams that I think can contend, can be up here with the Rams, that have an issue or two where I'm like, that could be their downfall. And for the Chargers, it is their offensive line, more specifically the interior of their line. Because don't get me wrong, Slater and Alt, that might be the best tackle duo in football. The problem is they got me and you watching this video blocking on the interior, right? It is not a good group between those tackles. And God forbid, knock on wood, something happens to Slater or Alt, their offensive line is going to be really, really bad. But outside of that, you got Justin Herbert, who I will never quit on. I think he is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in this league. And giving him Mike McDaniel, who is easily the best offensive coordinator he's ever had, should be a recipe for major success. McDaniel is going to make the most out of Herbert's arm, his ability to read the field, his ability to get out of the pocket and move and extend plays. He's going to make the most of those kinds of things. And you have a receiver room, while not fantastic, is good enough to help Herbert out a little bit. The run game is going to be good. You add Alec Ingold to further bolster it. The defense should be good. I like their pass rush. I like their secondary. This is going to be a very good team. You lose Jesse Minter, that sucks, but I do think they will be able to overcome that with some of the talent they have defensively, and I think they are good enough to be a playoff team. And that takes us to another West Coast team in the 49ers, who I'm going to put in the borderline playoffs tier. And the only reason they're not higher, because I do think the Niners on paper have one of the most talented rosters in the league, the thing that holds them back is health, because the substation does not quit. It does not stop claiming victims. Feels like every day you wake up and it's like, oh, cool, 3 new 49ers are hurt for X amount of games, right? It is really tough to watch. It is really unfortunate because this team is getting up there in age. A lot of their key pieces. You look at Trent Williams, George Kittle, Mike Evans, who they just added, Kyle Juszczyk. These are all guys who, Fred Warner even, are in their 30s and not really spring chickens anymore, so to speak. And we don't know how much time they have left. And to see this team that is built to win right now slowly degrade week after week after week is really, really unfortunate. Because of that, I can't bank on them to be a true playoff team, especially with how competitive the NFC and the NFC West are right now. I do think they have the talent to be a playoff team. It's just about keeping those guys on the field. I like what they did a lot this offseason. Adding Mike Evans was huge whenever he gets on the field for them. They upgraded the interior of their defensive line with Osa Odighizuwa and Grayson Halton, 2 guys they desperately needed up front. They're getting Fred Warner back. Their secondary outside of their safety should be pretty solid. Like, they have a really good football team. It just can't stay on the field, and we all know the best ability is availability, and the Niners simply do not have that consistently. And honestly, a lot of that logic can apply to the Carolina Panthers, who I initially was going to put in frisky, but I unfortunately have to drop to mid because of the injuries. This team is missing a handful of key players already, both of your starting tackles. Nick Scorton's going to be out. Chris Brazzell, who they were super excited about, is going to be out. This is a team that is also really banged up, and you have good pieces. I like the core pillars of their defense after adding Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd to go with J.C. Horn and Derek Brown. You have Bryce Young, who I like a lot as a quarterback. I think gets bad rap for no reason. He's a good passer. The run game's going to be weak after losing Rico Dowdle. That's another concern I have, that you're not going to have that ability to take the stress off of Bryce. And with this offensive line, you're relying heavily on a rookie tackle, which does not bode well. Those guys historically struggle right away. Not saying that Freeling is going to be bad his entire career. I don't think that's the case. I think he will develop. But he was a guy coming out that I thought needed a little bit of time to sit. He needed a little bit of time to grow. And instead, he's being thrown to the wolves. I'm a little concerned about that. You're also going to be relying on a backup left tackle for an extended period of time. Given the fact that the NFC is competitive, as I've said, they get thrown to the wolves right away week 1 against Chicago. This is a team that I am concerned about given the injuries. Now, they could rise to the occasion and win the NFC South. And you'll see I'm not going to put any of the NFC South teams especially high because this division just isn't strong. And Carolina, I think, is one of the prime examples of that. But one team that is super strong is the Seattle Seahawks, and they are obviously going to the true contender tier. They won the Super Bowl handedly last year. They kept most of their key pieces. You lose a couple guys in the secondary with Kobe Bryant, who I think will be a notable loss, but not an insurmountable one, as well as Reek Woolen, who was replaceable for the way they were playing him. You also lose Kenneth Walker, who was a very good player, but you do spend a first-round pick on Jadarian Price, and I think he can at least be a good running back for you, right? And realistically, this offense doesn't need an elite running back. It needs a good one, because Sam Darnold in this passing attack is going to be super effective. On the defensive side, even losing a couple pieces in the secondary, it's a hell of a lot easier to play corner or safety when you have that defensive line in front of you, right? Mike McDonald is going to have these guys coached up. The defense is going to play great. Darnold's going to play very well, and they are going to be a contender once again. I do think the representative for the NFC has a very, very high chance to be one of these two NFC West teams. And spoiler alert, they're going to be the only NFC teams that make it into the true contender tier for me. And one team that is not going to make the true contender tier, but will land right underneath, is the Buffalo Bills. So we're going to put them in that playoff tier. And their big Achilles heel, their weakness, is their defense. I am very concerned about how this group is going to look this year because they have struggled the last few years, especially against the run. And they didn't make any major additions there. They did add some guys here and there, and maybe someone will surprise. But you've got some aging vets you're relying on, and at the end of the day, this defense just isn't that strong. You also lose Sean McDermott, who I agreed with firing, but he did have that defense playing a lot better than it should have been, right? Maybe Leonard can capture some of that magic, their new defensive coordinator. I'm not going to bank on that right now. We'll see how we feel a couple weeks into the season. But the reason they're still in the playoffs tier, even with that weak defense, is because they have Josh Allen. Josh Allen might be the best quarterback in the league right now. He is playing lights out. He's absolutely tremendous. And despite what Bills fans might try to tell you, he has help. James Cook and that run game were electric last year. You added Jackson Hawes, which was a huge benefit. You do lose Reggie Gilliam, which is going to hurt a bit, but they replace him with Ben Van Sumeren, who has played limited time at fullback, but has looked good when he's been out there. So we'll see how that pans out for them. And then at receiver, DJ Moore is a big addition for them. I know Bears fans, he kind of left a bad taste in our mouths, but I will defend DJ Moore until the day I die. He is my favorite receiver in football, and he's still a damn good football player to pair with Dalton Kincaid and with Khalil Shakir and some of these other guys that Buffalo has. So yeah, as long as Allen is healthy, knock on wood, I firmly believe that Buffalo is a playoff team. And another team that will be joining them in that tier, unfortunately, is the Green Bay Packers. I'm a Bears fan. I don't like the Packers, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't think they were the biggest threat to Chicago in their division, right? The Packers are a very good football team. Their offense is great. They've got the skill position players with Tucker Kraft, who is one of the best tight ends in the league. You've got a good receiver room when Christian Watson is healthy. You lose Romeo Doubs, but you're hoping Matthew Golden, who didn't show a ton last year, but I liked a lot coming out of college, can step up. Defense is going to be good. You've got Micah Parsons. Whenever he comes back, this defense will be very, very good. You've also got a good linebacker in Edrin Cooper. The secondary is good with Xavier McKinney. You added Brandon Cease out of South Carolina to be one of your starting corners. You needed that. Corner room was rough. Offensive line is pretty good across the board. They're well coached. LaFleur's a great coach. Like, it hurts me to praise them, obviously, but they are a very good football team. They very easily could win the NFC North. They could even end up with the 1 seed in the NFC. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. It all depends on how they look once Micah Parsons comes back from injury. That's going to be the big X factor for them this season. If he comes back 100%, is firing on all cylinders, then look out. If he's not, then I still think they'll be a playoff team. Just maybe temper your expectations for any first-round buys, right? And that takes us to a team that I don't think anyone expects to compete for that 1 seed in the NFC, and that is the New Orleans Saints, who are going to go 1 tier above their NFC South rivals in this frisky tier. And for the frisky tier, these are teams that I'm not confident enough to say I think there is a world where they make the playoffs, like a good chance they make the playoffs, but I could see it happening. And more importantly, I think they will play good teams close. And for the Saints, I think they will end up being a playoff team because I think they will win the NFC South. But again, it's the worst division in football, and they could win this division with like 9 wins, right? So because of that, I don't want to put them certifiably in the playoff or borderline playoff tier because, again, the Falcons or Panthers could get those 8 or 9 wins that you're probably going to need to win this division. So it's not comfortable enough to say, like, yeah, definitively, this is the team that's going to win this division. But if I had to bank on it, I think it would be the Saints. And the reason for that is, number one, I trust this Saints team more. I like their coaching a lot with Kellen Moore. Getting him in year 2 with Tyler Shuck is going to be huge. I am a true Shucker. I love Tyler Shuck. I think there's a real world where he's viewed as the best quarterback in this division by the end of this year. And I definitely think so far he has been the best quarterback out of his draft class. And we'll talk about some of the other guys later. That's not really a shot at Cam Ward. I'm just going to throw that out there now. But Shuck has looked great. You go out, you get him weapons. Adding Jordan Tyson is huge. Adding Travis Etienne to be a receiving threat out of the backfield is huge. You still have Chris Olave, who just got a massive extension. You have Juwan Johnson, who Shuck likes to throw to a lot. You also added Bryce Lance, who I'm pretty excited about for them. Defensively, you've got solid linebackers. You've got a good D-line. I know they're going to be losing Brian Bresee for the year, which really, really sucks. But Chase Young has proven to be a borderline elite edge rusher for them over the last couple seasons. So that is a big benefit for them. Secondary, I like a lot. Safeties are good. Kool-Aid McKinstry's pretty good. You got to figure out who's going to be playing opposite him. You have a couple guys in contention there. But I do think if somebody emerges, then the Saints team will be fine. I could see them even surpassing the 8 to 9 wins they need. It kind of depends on how Shuck develops throughout the season, if he blossoms and explodes in year 2, then we could be having a different conversation. We'll have to see how that goes, but I do think they will win their division. And while we're at it, we'll just go ahead and get Tampa out of the way. I'm going to put them in the mid-tier. I think they will be the worst team in this division this year. And I understand a lot of people are bought in on Baker Mayfield. I like the guy. He's fun. He's gritty. He's like a tough son of a bitch, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think he's a quarterback that can elevate a roster. And this roster is going to need a little bit of elevation. They're not coached well. I don't think Todd Bowles is a serious NFL coach. And defensively, if they lose Vita Vea, that defensive line is going to struggle. They do have good edges. I like their edge room, especially after adding Ruben Bain. But without Vita Vea, that is going to cause Kalijah Kancey to take a step back, who's an important piece for you. And then the linebacker room without Levante David, we'll see how they perform. The secondary without Jamel Dean, we'll see how they perform. The secondary I have some questions about. So the defense is going to have issues. Baker Mayfield, I'm not fully sold on him as a franchise quarterback. I don't think Tampa is either. That's why they haven't paid him yet. They gave him that offer that he was insulted by and whatnot. So I don't love the projection of Tampa. Could they win this division? Sure. Again, bad division, right? Would I bank on it? Out of the 4 teams in this division, I'd probably put the least faith in them. And it comes down to the defense and the coaching. Those are the 2 big things. And I don't think Baker Mayfield is enough to elevate them beyond that. Getting ourselves back on track here now, we've got the Raiders, and I'm going to put them in this bottom tier. I like the Raiders and where they're headed, but as of right now, I don't think they're going to be very competitive this year. They're in a division that's going to be hard to win in with the Chargers and the Broncos and the Chiefs, and we'll talk about 2 of those other teams later. But with that division, with the fact that they're not starting Fernando Mendoza week 1, and their defense, I think overall, is pretty weak, they need another season like this. They need another bad year. You've got the coach and you've got the quarterback. Those are the 2 most important things. I'm very confident in Kubiak and I'm very confident in Mendoza, just not this year, right? You need a little bit of time to meld together. He's got Bowers, he's got Genty. You've got some good, building blocks on the offensive line, but you need to flesh out that receiver room. You need to build up the offensive line a little bit more. And defensively, it's Max Crosby and the power of friendship right now, right? You did add your 2 linebackers who I do like. I will give them credit there. But that's not enough to save this defense, in my opinion. You're relying on a lot of young guys taking a leap. And I don't think it's all going to click soon enough this season. Now, by the end of the year, we could absolutely be talking about the Raiders. Look out for them next year. Let them add a couple pieces. Get Mendoza in there, starting from week 1. We could have that conversation. But I don't think you're going to have all of the things go right away that they need for them to break into anything else. Maybe you could argue them for the mid-tier, but honestly, being in this bottom tier while having the coach and the quarterback is a huge win. Because that means you're going to be picking high next year, and you can take, a Leonard Moore at corner, or a Colin Simmons, or a Dylan Stewart, or whoever, right? You can take one of these big defensive pieces, or maybe a big offensive lineman. The big old tackle from Texas, I know, is a big deal. Maybe even Jeremiah Smith. Imagine adding Jeremiah Smith to an offense with Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, dude. That is a real possibility for the Raiders. I think that's great for them, and I think them being in this bottom tier, again, I cannot stress it enough. Being in the bottom tier while having the coach and the quarterback squared away is a win. That is a big win, and that's where I stand with the Raiders. So yeah, with the Raiders, I just don't think it's their year. But you know whose year it might be? The Dallas Cowboys. It might actually this year. It might actually. Genuinely, it could be. I know we joke about it, but it could be their year. Because you take a look at this roster, the offense is going to be very good. Dak's a top 10 quarterback. Run game is going to be good. You have Pickens and Lamb and Ferg and a really good group of pass catchers around Dak. The offensive line is good. Schottenheimer, we'll see how he does as the head coach. We'll see how it goes. He was calling plays for them. He's done a good job as their offensive coordinator. And then defensively, I really like where they're standing. You got Quinnen Williams, you got Donovan Ezeraku. That's a good 1-2 punch on the defensive line. You also have Kenny Clark, who's still a good football player. You add Malachi Lawrence. Do I think he was overdrafted? Yes. Is he a really good player to have as your 3rd or 4th most important defensive lineman? Also, yes. Jayshon Barham has looked awesome to start out. I think he's going to be a big part of their linebacker core. You got DeMarvion Overshown, who's finally healthy again. Secondary looks like it's going to be pretty solid. Worried about the corners a little bit because they are relying on some unproven pieces. But if any of those guys can take a step forward, as well as having Caleb Downs emerging in your secondary as who I thought was the best player in this past draft class, you're cooking with gas, right? Dallas could be really, 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 really good this year. I don't want to put them in true contenders because I don't want to get too crazy. And again, I am worried about their corners. But as a whole, I do think they are one of the stronger teams in the league right now. And another team that I view as one of the strongest in the league is the Chicago Bears, but we're going to save them to the end of the video. They're my favorite team. I figured it'd be fun to end on them. So with moving the Bears to the end, that takes us to the Indianapolis Colts, and we're going to put them in this borderline playoffs tier. And the reason they are borderline and not a full-blown playoff team is, number one, two of the other teams in their division who we'll talk about, and number two, it all depends on what Daniel Jones looks like coming back from injury. History tells us Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. However, at the start of last year, he looked like a damn MVP candidate. And it wasn't fluky. His pocket presence and his poise had improved, like, astronomically. And those were two of the reasons why he struggled so bad. He was skittish under pressure, couldn't feel pressure in the pocket, and he wasn't making good reads. With the Colts early in the year, he looked like a different quarterback. And so if he captures some of that magic, this is probably a playoff team. If not, borderline frisky, we'll see how it goes. But they really need Jones to step up. I'm going to bet on him at least being, 70 to 80% of that. And if he is 70 to 80% of that, this is a wild card team, for sure. You have the run game with Jonathan Taylor and a very good offensive line. I like the weapons a lot. You've got year 2 of Tyler Warren. You've got Alec Pierce is sticking around. You've got Downs. Outside of that, their receiver room is a little shaky, but you're hoping somebody can step up. And then defensively, the defensive line, great. I am a big old Leatu Latu fan. You've got Buckner and Stewart on the interior. At linebacker, I'm a little concerned, but maybe CJ Allen has a big rookie season. That's definitely possible. And then the secondary looks like it's going to be good. You've got the safeties. You added AJ Halsey, who I loved as a draft prospect. And then with Sauce Gardner, you are in good shape. This could be a very good football team. Again, it just hinges on what happens with Daniel Jones. If he's healthy, if he is the same player he was last year, playoffs for sure. If he's not healthy, you might be the worst team in this division, because realistically, what are the backups for this team? What are they going to do? Anthony Richardson, I think we're all kind of out on him at this point. Maybe he can be a fun reclamation project for another team, but with the Colts, I don't think he's going anywhere. So with the Colts, I think they can be very, very good, which then takes us to a team that I don't think is going to be very good in the Miami Dolphins. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, right? This is a team with a ton of young starters that is just not ready to compete right now. They need a year or two to let some of those young guys settle in, develop, figure out their roles. This is a year about finding out what you have in Malik Willis and some of these young guys to determine, like, okay, we're going to be picking high next year. What positions do we need to address? Do we need to go quarterback? Do we need an edge rusher? Do we need a corner, et cetera, et cetera? This is going to be a year where Dolphins fans are looking for flashes from their young guys, Jacob Rodriguez, Chris Johnson, whoever it may be. But realistically, I think we all know, especially in a division that's going to be competitive with at least the top two teams, maybe the other one who we'll talk about, I don't think Miami's going to be very good. And I don't think I have to spend much more time talking about that. And while I don't think Miami is a playoff team, their rivals in New England definitely are a playoff team, right? I think the Patriots will go to the playoffs again this year. They were a team last year that I know a lot of people wanted to put an asterisk next to their season because they had the easy strength of schedule. They got a freebie win in the playoffs against the Broncos because Jarrett Stidham was starting and they barely beat them. And then you get to the Super Bowl, you get absolutely reamed by the Seahawks. I understand that they did not have the prettiest season in the world. And then you go into this offseason, you have all of the drama with Mike Vrabel. I get that that can be a problem. That being said, Drake May has officially entered the tier of quarterbacks that I'm not necessarily willing to bet against. He was absolutely tremendous last year, was the MVP runner-up. And I think May, with the weapons he has, especially now adding A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs, extending Hunter Henry, who's been a huge safety blanket for him, the run game is going to be better with year 2 of Henderson and adding Reggie Gilliam. Their offense is going to be successful. And then defensively, the secondary is good. The pass rush, you add Gabe Akis, who I am a huge fan of. I think that will be beneficial for them. Linebackers should be fine enough. The only real concern with this team outside of the off-field stuff with Vrabel is the offensive line, where you need those guys to step up. It's kind of put up or shut up this year for those guys. Will Campbell, we'll see if he's a tackle. I know he got his ass beat in the Super Bowl, but he was good for New England up until that point. So maybe Seattle just had his number. They knew how to beat him. We'll see if maybe the rest of the league takes notes and they start exploiting him. If that's the case, you can kick him into guard, and I think he'll be very good there. You have a couple other young guys that are stepping up for you. The center, whose name is escaping me, I'll flash it on the screen. He's going to be starting at center finally for them. They need their offensive line to step up. That is going to be the X factor for this team. If the line steps up, they might even win the AFC. If it doesn't, I still think they'll be in playoff contention because May can avoid pressure. but they probably won't be nearly as successful, right? Which then takes us to another team with offensive line woes in the Detroit Lions, and we're going to put them in the borderline playoffs tier. And look, offensive line is going to be a struggle for them. You have Penei Sewell, he's switching to the other side of the line. I don't think he'll struggle, right? Penei Sewell is maybe the best tackle in all of football right now. He's going to play well at left tackle. I don't have any doubts there. However, Cade Mays being out for extended periods of time, you're relying on a rookie right tackle, which again, no hate to Blake Miller, it's really hard for rookie tackles to thrive in this league. They're going to struggle year one. That's what history tells us. Guard, you have some question marks there, nothing really proven. Their offensive line has been the engine of this team, and now it's going to take a step back. It is objectively going to be worse than it has in years past. It might be the worst they've had in this run of success that they've had. Outside of that, though, you do have Jared Goff, very good quarterback. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe the best running back in football. Pass catchers are going to be good. Defensively, I have my concerns with their secondary. They are banged up at safety, which is really scary with Branch and Joseph. And then at corner, you are relying on some guys like Roger McCreary, for example, who I'm not exactly sold on. Linebacker room, you have Jack Campbell, who's good. Defensive line will be good. So we're talking about a team that is playing in the hardest division in football right now, in my humble opinion. Playing in the better conference of the two right now, has a major question mark up front, has a major question mark in the secondary. I have my concerns there. Do I think Detroit is a lock to miss the playoffs? Absolutely not. Would it surprise me if they made the playoffs? Absolutely not. But I think they have bigger questions than Green Bay and Chicago, for example, that are going to keep them out of that playoff tier for me personally. And joining them in that borderline playoff tier will be the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is the same song and dance that we've done with them for quite a while now, right? I really trust Joe Burrow. I think the passing attack is going to be super effective with him and Chase and Higgins and whoever else they have out there. The run game will be good with Chase Brown. I'm a big Chase Brown guy, but I am worried about the offensive line. The left side of that line was uncharacteristically weak last year. Orlando Brown Jr. especially had a really rough year, and they didn't do a lot to really upgrade it, if anything, you know? So that line is going to be a concern, and if they can't keep Burrow healthy, then we're going to be having some uncomfortable conversations. Defensively, they did get better. They add Dexter Lawrence. You're getting year two of their young linebackers. You also added John Allen to play next to Dexter Lawrence. You've got some solid edge rushers. The secondary has some pieces there. They can be competitive. They can definitely be competitive, and I could see them winning their division, but it all hinges on Burrow being kept upright. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm not exactly super willing to bet that that's going to be the case. And I'm not saying definitively that I think Joe Burrow is going to get hurt. I really don't want him to, obviously. But, you know, you got to play it safe sometimes. And the Bengals are a team I am playing it safe with. That playoff tier is going to get crowded here soon. And so I'm putting them in the borderline. But they would be towards the top of the borderline, right? I definitely think they are a playoff caliber team that could win their division. It just all hinges on the health of Joe Burrow. And while I would not be shocked to see the Bengals win their division, I would be pretty surprised if the Titans did, which is why they're going to go in this mid-tier. And look, I think Cam Ward is going to be electric in year two. You add Carnell Tate to that offense, you get year two of him with Alec Ayumanor and with Calvin Ridley. They've got a good run game. They've got a good line. Defense should be pretty solid. You give him Brian Dable to work with. I'm really excited about the Titans here in a year or two, right? This year, they'll be fun. But realistically, in this division, with the Colts, if Daniel Jones is healthy, and then with the Jaguars and Texans, who, spoiler alert, we're just going to put them where they both go. They're both going in this playoffs tier, and we'll talk about them in a second. I just don't think they have the juice to compete with them right this second. Now, in a year or two, absolutely. Get a couple more pieces, build up the defense a little bit more. This team could be really, really good depending on Cam Ward's development, and I'm very confident in Cam Ward. I just don't think it's their year this year. As for these other two teams, Jaguars were great last year, especially down the stretch in that last third of the season. If they can recapture that magic where Trevor Lawrence finally looked like the number one overall pick they were promised, Liam Cohen was firing on all cylinders, the pass catchers were playing well, then this can be big. You're getting Travis Hunter back, who's going to play both ways for you. He missed most of last year, so that's pretty big. You're hoping Brian Thomas Jr. can take a step forward. You still have Jacoby Myers, who stepped up for you. Brenton Strange has been a solid tight end. Run game, you lose Travis Etienne, but you are hopeful in Bashal Tutin. I liked what I saw out of him last year. The offensive line should be solid. Their defense was very good last year. I like their edge duo. I like their interior. Their linebackers are solid. Their secondary is exciting. Like, this is a team that's going to be very good again this year. How far will they go? It depends on what version of Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen's relationship we get. If it's the beginning of last year, they're not going to go very far. If it's the end of last year, they could win this division, right? So the Jaguars, that's where I stand with them. And then the Texans, their defense probably going to be the best in football this year. They have the best edge duo in football. They have Jadeveon Clowney as their edge 3, which is insane. They plugged up the interior of their defensive line further by adding Caden McDonald. That's a huge get. The linebackers are going to be good with D'Amico. The secondary is out of this world with Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie and Kamari Lassiter and some of these other pieces. My only question with them is the offense, and more specifically CJ Stroud. Stroud needs to be able to step up for them to win games. This is kind of put up or shut up territory for Stroud, who looked incredible his rookie year, since then has really struggled. If Stroud can succeed with all of his weapons around and healthy, Tank Dell's back, you've got Nico Collins, tight end room solid, you've got other receivers whose names are escaping me at the moment. Run game will hopefully be improved with year 2 of Woody Marks and adding David Montgomery. Stroud and this offensive line are going to be the X factors for this team. Can this offensive line take a step forward? Can Stroud take a step forward? These are going to determine how far Houston can go. If I was confident in either one of them, if I thought, yeah, Stroud's offensive line is going to be bad, but he's fantastic, or if the offensive line was pretty good, but I was a little bit worried about Stroud, he's a little volatile, then I'd be a lot closer to putting Houston in the true contender tier. That's how good their defense is. That's how well coached they are with D'Amico Ryans. That's how good their skill position players are. They're a very, very good football team. They just have question marks at 2 very important spots. So for now, they're going to be in this playoffs tier, which is obviously a very good place to be. Which brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've had a lot of issues placing them. I've gone back and forth between playoffs and borderline playoffs a lot, because at the end of the day, this is a well-built team. The defense is going to be great. You replace Jalen Phillips, who was your only huge loss on your defense, with Jonathan Grenard, who I think is a better player. Safety room could be an issue, but you do have some young guys like Andrew Makuba, who I'm very excited about and have faith in. Corners are going to be good. Linebackers are going to be good. The interior is going to be really good with Jalen Carter and Moro Ajomo, who I'm excited to see this year. And then offensively, you've got the run game with Saquon Barkley. Receiver room's going to be good. I know you lost A.J. Brown, but you had Mekhi Lemon, who I thought was the best receiver in the class. You still have Devonta Smith. You have a good tight end in Dallas Goedert. Offensive line's going to be good. You have a couple weaker links there, but I do think they will play pretty well. And then Jalen Hurts, very hot button topic for a lot of people. I still think he's one of the 12 to 15 best quarterbacks in this sport. I think this is a well-built team, but I am worried about the coaching. Sean Mannion, we'll see how he does. I don't know how his style of offense is going to blend with Jalen Hurts. It's a lot more under center. We're going to see a lot of horizontal versus vertical passing, a lot of play action, a lot of working off the run game, which will be beneficial for the offense as a whole. But for Hurts, we'll see. And then Nick Sirianni, I just don't think is a serious head coach. So because of that, I'm going to put them in borderline playoffs, but I will put them at the front of the tier. And I want to make it clear, these are not really in any order in the tiers, but, just to signify, these guys are kind of in the middle between these two tiers. Realistically, I'm going to put them at the top of this one, and that will be the only one that, actually matters in terms of placement. But one team I had no trouble placing was the Denver Broncos, who are going to go in this top tier. I think the Broncos are one of the best teams in the league right now. I don't think that's a hot take. They were a Bo Nix injury away from going to the Super Bowl last year. I firmly believe that. Right, Bo Nix is a good quarterback. He's proven he's the franchise guy for Denver. Receiver room's good. You add Jalen Waddle, which is huge, especially for Bo Nix's play style, wanting to push the ball downfield. Offensive line is great. Defensive line is great. Linebackers are good. Secondary's fantastic. This is going to be one of, if not the best defense in the league. It's between them and Houston, realistically, and Seattle. Those are probably your big three. And I think they're going to find success this year once again. Sean Payton is a great coach. Like their offense, like their defense. They're a great team. I feel like I don't have to do much more explaining than that. And going from Denver to the New York Football Giants is rather fitting, in my opinion, given the intro of this video where we talked about the contenders and the pretenders, because the Broncos, certified contender. Giants, they're a pretender. I'm sorry, I'm not buying into the hype. I'm not sipping the Kool-Aid. I don't believe that this team is some, scrappy dark horse pick to make a deep playoff run or win a bunch of games. I'm not bought in on it. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. Not only do I not think he is a polished passer, I have my concerns there. I'm also worried about his health. The guy takes a lot of hits. He doesn't protect his head. He was in the concussion protocol quite often last year. And as a result, I am worried about his longevity as the starting quarterback for the Giants, and worried even more so in this current moment about his season longevity, right? He's probably going to miss time again this year if he continues to play the way he's been playing. And I don't want to bank on injury, but that's the reality of the situation. If you're a quarterback and you play reckless, you're going to get hurt. It happens often. We know it happens, especially if you play reckless with your head. On top of that, bringing in Matt Nagy to be his play caller, to be his offensive coordinator, I can't buy into it. I'm sorry, I like the Harbaugh hire as the head coach. I think he fumbled the offensive coordinator hard. and I understand Nagy was like his third choice, make a better third choice. Nagy is not a good NFL offensive coordinator. He's not a good play caller. And it's even worse when you expect him to develop a young quarterback. This is the worst thing you could have done for Jackson Dart's development. Because he was promising last year. He showed flashes. But you are neutering any chance he has at significant growth in year 2 by hitching him to Matt Nagy. It's the reality of the situation. It's what Matt Nagy does to young quarterbacks. And then defensively, they're going to have a good pass rush. I like adding Tremaine Edmonds because he's going to have a real defensive line in front of him now. But the interior of your defensive line, big question mark there without Sexy Dexy. Secondary, you're relying on a lot of young guys to step up and prove something. I'm just not bought into it. I think this year they're going to realize how bad of a mistake they made with Nagy. They're going to fire him. They're going to go into year 3. And then hopefully whoever they bring in can salvage the mistakes that Nagy made. Some of those young pieces can develop further. I just don't think the Giants are going much of anywhere this year, especially in a division with the Cowboys and Eagles and in a conference with a lot of really good teams, some of which we're yet to even talk about. And coincidentally, we have one of those teams next up here in the Minnesota Vikings, who are going to go in the frisky tier. And look, I think the Vikings are a well-built team that are well-coached. Love Flores, love Kevin O'Connell. That's a good pairing. And across the board, they have a damn good roster. The problem is, again, super competitive NFC North, and I think, first and foremost, they have the worst quarterback of that group. I think Kyler Murray in his current state is worse than Caleb Williams, even more so with projecting him to take a leap. Jordan Love, and Jared Goff. Those are 3 really good quarterbacks. Kyler Murray's the worst of that group. They also don't have a great run game. They didn't do a lot to upgrade it. You lose CJ Ham, you bring in Max Bredesen. That's a good move, but as of right now, just because you go from one of the best fullbacks in the league to a rookie, that has to be considered a downgrade. You didn't add anything at running back. You still are running with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. You did add Damon Claiborne, I guess, but I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out. I'm not going to bet that Damon Claiborne is going to, bolster this run game tenfold and fix the problems they had. And then up front with the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw struggled to stay healthy over the last 2 years. And outside of him, Blake Brandel, Will Fries, those are 2 guys that are not exactly fantastic. Fries struggled a bit last year. And then at left guard, Donovan Jackson was good as a rookie. You're hoping he can continue to develop. And Brian O'Neill's very good. Receiver room, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings, they're going to be fine. And then defensively, you lose Jonathan Grenard. It cannot be overstated how good he is as a run defender. Losing that and subbing in Dallas Turner, who is just too small to hold up like Grenard was against the run, is a struggle. I am concerned about that for them. And then Harrison Smith, I understand. He's old. He's over the hill, probably going to retire. His leadership for this defense was huge. That is something that I think a lot of people are underselling as a notable loss for them. So Minnesota, will they play good teams close? Can they beat good teams? Absolutely. Can they make the playoffs? Absolutely. Just out of the 4 teams in their division right now, they're the ones I'm the least confident in because of the offensive line, because of the quarterback, because of some of the losses on defense, because of the run game. They have a lot more questions than these other teams. Chicago, you have 1 question. Green Bay, you have 1 or 2 maybe. Detroit, you have a couple, but not as many as Minnesota. That's the separator here. There's a couple questions with Minnesota that just put them behind those other teams in that division. I still think they're a very good roster. I just can't put them any higher than this right now because of the division they play in. And speaking of teams that are going to be the worst in their division because of quarterback play, the Arizona Cardinals are going in this bottom tier. We don't know what Carson Beck is yet. He played good in the Hall of Fame game. I don't know if he's going to play for the Cardinals this year. I kind of hope he doesn't because I feel like he needs another year to sit. You also have Jacoby Brissett, who is a fine bridge quarterback. But when you have Stafford, Darnold, and Purdy in your division, that's terrifying. Overall, this roster is just not built as well as those other teams, and they're the only one without a, surefire head coach. You bring in Mike LaFleur, we'll see what he is, right? We don't really know what he is because he never called plays for the Rams. He didn't have a big role in setting up their offense. He was just kind of playing second fiddle to McVay, and we know these guys who are offensive coordinators under offensive-minded head coaches aren't always the best. They don't always have the experience you need. So the Cardinals, I have a lot of questions with them. I don't think it's surprising to anybody that they're a little bit lower here in the tier list. I think they are a team that's going to be picking top 5 next year. And hey, if Carson Beck's your quarterback, that's great. You have the same conversation we have with the Raiders. If LaFleur proves that he's a good coach, great. You have the same conversation we have with the Raiders. If you have that coach and quarterback in place and you're bad this year, that's fantastic. Maybe that's in the cards for Arizona. We'll have to see. But right now, I just don't think they're going to be doing a whole lot this year. But one team I do think is going to make a lot of noise this year is the Baltimore Ravens, who are going in this true contenders tier and will be the final team in this top tier. Baltimore has a top 3 quarterback in the sport in Lamar Jackson. I loved their head coach hire in Jesse Minter. I think that is going to be huge for this defense. that has struggled over the past couple years relative to their expectations. You're getting Nnamdi Madubuike back. That's huge to go along with Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton and Trey Hendrickson, who they just added through free agency, Marlon Humphrey. You've got a really good defense on paper. You have a fantastic defensive mind coaching that group up. That's a huge win for Baltimore. And then on the offensive side of things, Lamar Jackson's great. He's got some weapons in Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and whoever else you want to point out there. You do lose Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews is your number one tight end, and the Big 26 is kind of 50-50 at this point. We'll see how that goes for him. Offensive line is going to be better because you added Vega Ioane and you got rid of Daniel Falele. I can't overstate how big of a win that is for the Ravens. And then with the run game, you know Derrick Henry is going to be great. You do lose Pat Ricard, which is going to be a massive blow to them. But again, you've got Derrick Henry, and I think they will be fine. And then offensive coordinator, you bring in Declan Doyle, coming over from Chicago, working with Ben Johnson, also had experience with Sean Payton. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. If he runs a similar offense to what Ben Johnson was doing, Lamar's going to thrive. Lamar would fit perfectly in that type of offense. He's such a good passer. You can weaponize his legs. I think this Ravens team is going to be very, very good. Now, injuries may not be on their side, as we have seen historically, knock on wood. I'm not going to bet on injuries happening, but you do have to unfortunately acknowledge them with the Ravens given their history. So I think they're going to be good. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. And I think they are easily one of the 4 best teams in the league right now, easily in that true contender tier for me. And while I think the Baltimore Ravens are a true certified contender, I can't say the same about the Kansas City Chiefs, who are going to go in frisky for a lot of the same reasons as the Minnesota Vikings. They are a team in an ultra-competitive division with the Chargers and Broncos ahead of them. Sure, you have the Raiders in there, which makes it a little bit easier than Minnesota, but this division is not easy. I think both the Broncos and Chargers will be very, very good this year. And they have legitimate holes on their team. Their offensive line, outside of Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, was not good. You know, you have Josh Simmons, who I like. Rookie tackles don't play well, so maybe last year was his growing pains, and this year he'll take a step forward, which would be huge. This receiver room isn't great. You know, you have Rashee Rice, who is what he is. Xavier Worthy has been underwhelming. Maybe Cyrus Allen can emerge. We'll see. Tyquan Thornton is a fine, third, fourth option. And then Travis Kelce is over the hump. He's just not what he once was. The run game will be better, and I'm so glad they finally addressed the fact that they can't generate explosives on the ground by bringing in Kenneth Walker. I also really like the draft pick of Emmett Johnson. So hopefully the run game will be able to help them out. And if the run game can help the Chiefs out, take some of the pressure off the passing game, I really do think Mahomes will return to form. I'm buying up all the Mahomes stock. If you're selling it, I'm buying it. I think he's in for a big year. I think he's going to, quiet a lot of the doubters that have said that he's washed. He's been disrespected this offseason in conversations about the best quarterbacks in the league. I still think he is one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. And then defensively, you've got some solid pieces with Chris Jones, who's still great. George Karlaftis, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, they're solid. But the young talent is what really excites me about this defense. You've got Mansour Delane and Noel Williams, 2 guys I'm pumped to see this year. I like that corner duo a lot. You've got Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, and Omar Norman Lott, the third of which is coming off of an injury last year. Was exciting, didn't get to play. The other 2 guys, rookies that I'm really excited about. You've also got Ashton Galletti, who I'm a fan of. I think this team has a chance to surprise some people. That being said, again, I do have the 2 other teams in their division ahead of them with the Broncos and Chargers. And because of that, I can't put them any higher than frisky. I did go back and forth between that and borderline playoffs. But again, I think them and Minnesota are very similar. Talented rosters with some holes, with some big question marks that are playing in divisions with very, very good teams around them. So I can't put them any higher than this frisky tier, which then takes us to the Jets. And I have some very irresponsible thoughts about the Jets. If Geno Smith can return to form, which is the biggest if in the history of ifs, this team can be a playoff team. The way their offense is built with the weapons they have, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr., they can be a playoff team. The offensive line is also very good. You've got your bookend tackles, both of which are very young. Guards are good, center solid. And then defensively, you've got potentially a good pass rush. Linebacker core should be good. I loved adding Demario Davis. I know he's ancient, but he's still very good. Secondary can be good. I like adding Deshaun Wright to help maybe fix your turnover problem. D'Angelo Pons was a really good draft pick. This team could make some noise and could be in that frisky borderline playoff tier if Geno Smith can return to form. And again, that's a major if. Major if. That's the biggest if of all time. That if is so big that if you put it in New York, it might resemble something that is no longer there. right? So with that, I'm going to put them in the mid-tier, but just know, in my heart of hearts, if Geno Smith can turn it around, I'm a West Virginia fan, I love Geno Smith. If Geno Smith can turn it around, then this team, I do think, can make some noise and surprise some people. But either way, they will be a very fun watch with the weapons they have. And where I have very irresponsible thoughts about the Jets' potential, I would say, pretty responsible expectations for the Steelers, so we're going to put them in frisky. I think this is a team that realistically is going to do the same thing they've done every year for the past X amount of years, right? It's the same song and dance. Pittsburgh comes into the season, no one has high expectations for them. They beat teams they shouldn't beat, they lose to teams they should beat, and they end up right around 500. Now, I know you don't have Mike Tomlin anymore, which maybe makes this a little bit more difficult, but you hired fat white Mike Tomlin to replace him. You know, that is exactly what Mike McCarthy is. He's another guy who's going to get the most out of his players, and then when it comes down to like the big moment, potentially breaking the cycle, he's going to fall back into complacency and probably blow the game. So that being said, offensively, I like their weapons, I like their run game a lot, but you've got old-ass Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's giving you a whole lot anymore. He'll be accurate, he'll find open guys, but he's not elevating this team. Without a floor raiser, this offense will be fine. And then defensively, you're going to have a good defense. You have a really deep defensive line. Linebacker core, I think, is a little underrated. Secondary is going to be good. You add Jaquan Brisker and Jamel Dean. I thought those were both really big pickups to go with Joey Porter and Jalen Ramsey, who were good last year. Like, the defense will be good. They will keep them in games. Offensively, you're going to be relying on Rodgers to step up here and there, and I just don't think he has that in him anymore. So I'm going to put them in frisky because, again, they will beat teams that they have no business beating and then lose to teams that they should blow out. Like, that's the Steeler way. That's what Steelers football has been since I started making content about the NFL, and it hasn't changed. I don't think it changes this year. Maybe this is the year they finally break the cycle. That would be really good for them. They need a bad season, but I think them hiring Mike McCarthy tells us that they don't want to go that route. And I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, for Pittsburgh, because like I said, they really do need that bad season. Which gets us to our last two teams that are intrinsically connected because of a draft day decision, and two fan bases that do not shut the hell up: the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. So with that, the penultimate team for this video, the Washington Commanders, are going to go in mid. And I'll sing their praises to start, right? Jaden Daniels, kind of an underrated quarterback at this point. He missed most of last year, and people are forgetting about him when talking about the 2024 quarterback class. Daniels is very good. I think he's a very good quarterback, and I am excited to see him come back and bounce back this year. Additionally, defensively, they made a lot of additions with, spending big money on guys like Odafe Owe, Leo Chanel, Nick Cross in their secondary. That kind of stuff is exciting. You also added Stephon Diggs for your receiver room. That was much needed. You also added Chiga Kunkwo was one of their big additions. That's a really nice add at tight end. Like, they made some good moves this offseason. They have the quarterback, and I think their head coach, Dan Quinn, is a good coach. The problem with Washington lies in their offensive line, which just got substantially worse. Laramie Tunsil is going to miss an extended period of time this year. I think it was about 8 weeks was the projection. And you take a look at the start of their schedule, they've got some brutal matchups for Laramie Tunsil to be missing. And I don't want to say Jaden Daniels is a frail quarterback, because that's not necessarily true. But he is a skinnier guy who does not brace himself well. And we saw last year, he got hurt because of that. And this year, without Laramie Tunsil, I am worried for him. Like, Daniels is a running quarterback, but he's not built like a guy like Cam Newton or Josh Allen. He's not one of these big tanks that can take a bunch of hits. He's a smaller guy, and taking those hits adds up. He is going to need to play a lot more conservatively, which is going to hinder the ceiling of this offense just a bit. Now, do I think Washington's going to be the worst team in the league? No, I think they'll be about a 7-win team. I'm just really concerned about them not having left tackle, and then defensively, they don't have any, star power. They have a couple guys that are, good, but you paid out this big money and you didn't walk away with, a true superstar on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that matters. I really do think that matters for a really good defense. And so this defense is going to be fine. If Daniels goes down, they're going to be in a world of hurt, and because of that, I can't put them any higher than mid. But one team I can put higher than mid, the final team for this video, the Chicago Bears, a very controversial, hot-button topic for this offseason. Where are they going to go? They're going to go in the playoff tier. I think the Bears are firmly a playoff team. Caleb Williams had a great year last year, is only going to continue to get better in year 2 of Ben Johnson's offense. Colston Loveland, Luther Bird, and those guys were exciting as rookies. They're only going to get better. You get a healthy Roma Dunze. The run game looks like it's going to be good. The offensive line, yeah, you lose Drew Dahlman. That's really tough. But Garrett Bradbury can at least keep the ship afloat. And that's a big deal when you also have really good offensive linemen in Joe Tooney and Darnell Wright and Jonah Jackson. Ozzie Trapillo, who looked great as the Bears left tackle last year, might be back for week 1, which is a huge win for Chicago. We didn't know if he was going to be back at all this year, and he might be back before the first game of the season. And then defensively, there is some projection to be had there, especially up front. Montez Sweat, good edge rusher. He shouldn't be your top dog. Outside of that, that defensive line is rough. I am, went on record the other day in a short and a TikTok, whatever you want to call it, and said that I think Austin Booker is going to have a huge year for the Bears. I am so in on Austin Booker. That's going to be a big deal for them. If he breaks out, that's huge. Linebacker core is going to be great. The Bears are super, super deep at linebacker with Devin Bush, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Keyshawn Elliott, DeMarco Jackson. They have a lot of really good guys there. In the secondary, yeah, you lose Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, but neither of those guys are irreplaceable. In fact, I would argue Brisker especially was very replaceable. You also lose Deshaun Wright, very replaceable. You have Jalen Johnson coming back. He's going to be fully healthy, which is a huge win for this team. You drafted Dylan Thieneman, who I think is going to be a star. You lose Kobe Bryant for maybe the entire regular season, which sucks, but Xavier Woods is a solid enough player to fill that role and just be fine. Al Harris is a great defensive backs coach. He will get the most out of his guys. If Kyler Gordon can play, that'll be huge. If not, Malik Muhammad's looked good in camp. You've also got Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, who are solid players. Like, this Bears team, yeah, the defense is their question mark, which is why I don't think they're in the true contender tier. But I do think they're firmly a playoff team. I think they will win their division again. I think they'll win at least 1 or 2 playoff games. I'm so confident in Ben Johnson in year 2 of Caleb Williams. I think this can be an MVP year from Caleb. And you can call me biased as a Bears fan. This is the first time in my life as a Bears fan where I am talking big about this team and I actively don't feel biased. Like, I can actually talk big about this team, talk them up, and not feel like I'm trying to convince myself of it. Like, that, I can't express how exciting that is. So, but with that, folks, that's our tier list, and that's going to do it for this video. I'm happy with this. There are a couple teams that are on the borderline where maybe I'd want to move them up or down a tier. Maybe I'm singing a different tune here in a week or whatever, but I do think as of right now, at 3:04 p.m. on August 13th, this is where I would rank all 32 teams in the NFL. So let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on this tier list. Is there anyone I have too high, too low? Just remember, if you're a fan of a team and your reply to this video is going to be, but our team improved so much this offseason, we added X, Y, and Z, that's totally understandable, but you got to remember, every team in the league should have improved this offseason. There's a couple that get worse, but realistically, most teams are going to improve. And when that happens, the bar raises and your improvements, your additions become less of a major add, right? Because if everybody gets better, nobody gets better, So just keep that in mind if you're a fan of one of the teams in the friskier mid-tiers that thinks I'm a little bit too low on your team. But, let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are. Again, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have some civil football discourse with everybody. I love replying to comments of people, genuinely giving their opinion and not being an ass about it, which I know is a rarity on the internet, but it's always really nice to see. Also, make sure to leave a like down below, as it does help out the channel a ton, shows your support, shows your care, and I really do appreciate it. And also make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming your way throughout the next, however many months. Football is back. We're going to be talking about football. I'm super excited to get into it. You won't want to miss it. And if it's not apparent, my voice is starting to give out on me, so I'm going to wrap this video up. And if it isn't apparent, my voice has been giving out for the past 20 minutes of me recording, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, morning, afternoon, night, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it, because you're all wonderful people, and you truly do deserve it.
But it wasn't there in time, but I have never seen anything like that. In all my days, I have never seen anything like that.